Listen closely, because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you've ever been told about strength, control, and freedom. There is one behavior, just one, that makes you unshakable, untouchable, impossible to manipulate. And it's not aggression. It's not dominance. It's not even intelligence. It's stillness, not passivity, not weakness. I'm talking about the kind of stillness that burns like fire beneath your skin. The kind that looks your enemies in the eye and says, "You will not move me." Because here's the truth. People aren't controlled by force. They are controlled by impulses, by emotion, by the desire to react. And that's where you lose your power. Every time you lash out, explain yourself, seek approval, you hand your strength over like it's nothing. But when you master the art of not reacting, when you sit with your pain, your rage, your confusion, and you don't flinch, you become terrifying to manipulators. You confuse them. You frustrate them. And eventually, you destroy their grip on you. They can't pull strings if you don't dance. They can't play games if you refuse to pick up the controller. And they sure as hell can't control someone who has trained their mind like a weapon, silent, steady, and precise. You think self-defense is about punches and kicks? No. The real self-defense is mastering your inner world so completely, so relentlessly, that nobody can drag you into a reaction you didn't choose. So ask yourself right now, are you reacting? Or are you responding with intention? Are you getting played? Or are you in control? If you can pause, if you can observe, if you can breathe while others burn, you have already won. And if you're ready to go deeper, to become mentally untouchable, to never be manipulated again, then don't just watch. Absorb this. Live this. Like, comment, I will no longer react, and subscribe, because we're not here to be average. We're here to be unbreakable. Let's begin. Non-reactivity is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of mastery. It is the decision to feel everything and still choose silence over chaos. The manipulator feeds on your reaction. That's the trap. They poke, they prod, they provoke, because your reaction gives them power. But when you do not react, when your face is still and your energy remains untouched, they lose. And they know it. Non-reactivity is not weakness. It is the most violent form of control, not over others, but over yourself. It is the ability to hear an insult, a threat, a lie, and not flinch. Not because it didn't hit, but because your power doesn't live on the surface. It lives deep, far beyond their reach. When you react, you confirm their influence. When you don't, you confirm your dominance. They want your attention. They want your emotional signature. They want the shift in your tone, the heat in your face, the tension in your jaw, because that's how they read you. That's how they manipulate. But when you give them nothing, not even the echo of discomfort, they start to break. Not you, them. Non-reactivity is a shield made of steel, forged in fire. And it doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in discomfort. It grows in that moment where everything in you screams to defend, to explain, to fight, and you just breathe. You don't deny the feeling. You master it. That's the difference between animals and warriors. One bites back. The other waits, watches, and then moves with precision. Most people are trained to react like puppets. You pull a string, they jump. But if you can sit in silence while the room burns, you become a mirror. You reflect back their chaos. You show them themselves. And nothing terrifies a manipulator more than facing their own game without your participation. The manipulators use guilt, shame, flattery, fear. But all those weapons collapse in the presence of a man or woman who does not emotionally move. If they tell you you're selfish and you don't defend. If they tell you you're amazing and you don't melt. If they ignore you and you stay centered. That's not coldness. That's invincibility. People will call it indifference. Let them. People will say you're heartless. Let them. People will think you're arrogant, detached, dangerous. Let them. Because when they can't manipulate you, they will try to label you. But the truth is, you've just broken out of their reach. Most people chase validation like oxygen. They can't survive without someone telling them who they are. That is exactly why they're easy to control. You want to be free? Stop needing anything from anyone who is trying to manage your emotions. If their silence makes you insecure, they own you. If their words ruin your peace, they rule you. But when you sit there, unshaken, heart beating steady, eyes clear, and you choose not to play, you cut the strings. The moment you choose non-reactivity, you change the power dynamic forever. The manipulator suddenly feels exposed. Because they've been feeding off your response. and now you're starving them. Example, you're in a room with someone who always needs control. They interrupt you. They talk over you. They twist your words. And you can feel the heat rising. You want to correct them. You want to shout the truth. You want to defend your name. But you don't. You breathe. You look them in the eye. You say nothing. You stay calm. And suddenly, they start unraveling. They stumble. They push harder. They escalate. Because they're used to your reaction, and now they're lost without it. This is the power of non-reactivity. You're not suppressing. You're watching. You're studying. You're deciding. And when you finally speak, it's not out of panic or pain. It's out of clarity. That's why it lands like thunder. You cannot be manipulated when you stop needing to be understood in every moment. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to justify your stillness. You don't need to defend your peace. If they don't understand your calm, let them choke on confusion. Most people fight every attack with words. You don't have to. Silence is a weapon. Stillness is a strategy. Composure is your battlefield. When you respond from stillness, you don't just win, you dominate. Because you've shown the ultimate strength, restraint. Non-reactivity rewrites the rules. The manipulator plays a script. They're expecting Act 1, Scene 2, predictable emotion, rehearsed reaction. But you flip the table. You remove the scene. You become unreadable. That's power. That's mystery. That's danger. You can't be studied if you don't give data. Every reaction is data. Every outburst, every plea, every need to be heard, it's a crack in your armor. But non-reactivity? It's a black mirror. They stare into it and see nothing but their own reflection. In a world that wants you loud, urgent, and emotionally dependent, your silence is rebellion. Your calm is violence. Your stillness is war. And your lack of response is the bullet they never see coming. People will test you, over and over. And every test is a chance to show them you've trained differently. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't explode. You observe. You think. You choose. And when you do act, it's with the force of 10 men, because you've stored your power like lightning in your bones. When they mock you and you smile. When they threaten you and you blink. When they try to shame you and you feel nothing. That's not numbness. That's complete control. It's the highest form of discipline, and it cannot be faked. Most people speak to be heard, but you've learned to speak only when the silence has said enough. That is what makes you different. That is what makes you dangerous. That is what makes you impossible to manipulate. This is not a trick. This is not a performance. This is a way of being, a way of breathing, a way of living. It is the death of impulsive emotion and the birth of grounded awareness. You don't chase peace. You are peace. You don't seek power. You hold power. And that is what sets you apart. Non-reactivity is the burial of the ego in real time. It is not silence for the sake of silence. It is silence that humbles the universe around you. It is the art of refusing to hand over your internal state like it's cheap currency. It is power distilled into breath, into stillness, into nothingness that shakes the ground harder than rage ever could. You want to go deeper? Understand this, non-reactivity is the death of need. When you stop needing to prove, to fix, to convince, to win, you transcend the game entirely. The manipulator plays to provoke needs in you: approval, affection, validation, revenge. But when you need nothing from them, you become a ghost in their system. Untouchable, unreadable, unpredictable. The manipulator isn't just testing your emotions, they're testing your sense of self. They want to know if you'll break character. If you'll betray your peace for a second of righteousness. If they can seduce your identity into becoming unstable. But non-reactivity is the refusal to break. It is the unyielding spine in the face of energetic attack. It is staring back into the void with calm eyes and saying, "You will not rearrange me." Most people react because they are not anchored. They are emotional tumbleweeds, blown in every direction by what someone says, what someone doesn't say, what someone implies. But you become the mountain. And mountains don't flinch. They don't justify. They don't chase clouds trying to explain why they stand. To go even deeper, understand that non-reactivity is not passive. It is an active engagement with your highest intelligence. It is the war of restraint, the battle of awareness over impulse. It's the voice inside that says, "I know what they're doing. I know the bait. I know the trick. And I will not bite." That's not weakness. That's command. It's one thing to feel anger and lash out. That's ordinary. But to feel the same fire burning in your chest and hold it in your hands like a blade you forged yourself, that is mastery. That is the separation between the masses and the few. between the ones who are moved like puppets and the ones who sit in the audience, watching the strings get pulled, untouched. The manipulator thrives on reaction because reaction means visibility. If they can see your pattern, they can shape it. But when you operate from stillness, your moves become invisible. You are no longer dancing to their tune. You are composing your own silence. And silence, when intentional, is louder than noise. People will think you don't care. Let them. People will believe you're detached. Let them. Because you're not performing for approval, you're operating from principle. Non-reactivity isn't about detachment. It's about precision. You don't react because you're numb. You don't react because you're aware. And that awareness removes the hooks from your mind. Let them accuse you. Let them provoke you. Let them lie about you. And you will sit with yourself, knowing exactly who you are, needing no validation to confirm it. That is the ultimate power. When the storm outside has no access to the calm inside. This is not easy, because your ego will scream. It will beg for retaliation. It will burn for revenge. It will crave vindication. And you will have to let all of that pass like a wave over your body without letting it move you. That's not denial. That's evolution. Non-reactivity is spiritual warfare. It is not about being quiet. It is about being sovereign. About no longer allowing external chaos to hijack your internal order. It is about sitting with discomfort, watching it move through your chest, and choosing to hold position. Not flinch. Not speak. Just be. It's a daily practice. Every slight, every disrespect, every emotional trap set by those who crave control over you is a chance to train, a chance to go deeper, a chance to say, I see what you're doing, but I know myself better than to respond. And here's the deepest part. When you become non-reactive, manipulators don't just lose control of you. They lose control of themselves. Because their game depends on your dance. And when you sit still, their tricks collapse. Their tactics rebound. They become erratic. Because the energy they send has nowhere to land. You become the mirror they can't bend. The wall they can't climb. The void they can't fill. And that's when you've truly won. Not by overpowering them, but by refusing to be shaped by them. You want to shock the world? You want to terrify the people who play games? Don't scream. Don't chase. Don't justify. Just look at them with calm eyes and let their own reflection haunt them. That's the level where reaction dies and self-mastery begins. And when you reach that level, when your silence becomes a storm they can't control, when your stillness starts shaking the room louder than their noise ever could, you are no longer a target. You are a mystery, a force, a presence they can't touch, predict, or manipulate. Because now, you've become the one thing every manipulator fears the most. Untouchable.